Welcome to Mishna study, Masechet Sheviit. So this is going to be the first Mishnah, first Perek, first Mishnah. We're going to discuss the laws of plowing a field on the Sheviit, and even pre-Shemita year, leading into the Shemitah year. What are we allowed to do and what are we not allowed to do? So this Perek is going to focus on what we call a Sedeh Ha'ilan, which is an orchard, or better yet, really a field of trees, as we'll see that it's really any types of tree. It doesn't necessarily have to be a fruit-bearing tree. And the next Perek, so our Perek opens up until when are you allowed to plow your field of trees, right, on the 6th year, right, the pre-Shemita year. That's what our Perek speaks about. And if you flip to the next Perek, the second Perek, it opens up right? When are we allowed to plow? Until when are we allowed to plow a field of grain? Right, that's Sedeh Lavan, right? A field of grain on the Erev Sheviit, also the pre-Shemitah year, right? So that's going to be our two Perakim, the main focus of each. So we're going to jump into our Mishnah. I will just point out before we jump into this Mishnah that when we're going to speak in this Mishnah, we know we're not allowed to plow during the Shemitah year, right? We know that those are clear Pesukim that speak in that we mentioned in the introduction that you're not allowed to plow your field, right? During the Shemitah year. During the times of the Bet HaMikdash, you also were not allowed to plow leading into the Shemitah year. You weren't allowed to prepare your field for the Shemitah year. And our Mishnah is going to focus on that time period. So leading up to the Shemitah year, if we have a sabbatical 7-year cycle, right? So years 1 through 6, you work the field. 7th year, the land rests. Now that 6th year, 7th year didn't roll in yet. That 6th year leading to the 7th, what are you allowed to do leading up to that 7th year? So that's what we're going to speak about in our Mishnah. And again, just reiterating, this is the time of the Bet HaMikdash, and we'll discuss that a little further as Rambam does in the Perush. Until when are you allowed to plow a field of trees, Erev Sheviit, right? The eve of the Sheviit, meaning the 6th year. Bet Shammai Omrim Kol Zman Shu Yafeh LaPeri. Bet Shammai says, as long you're allowed to plow, as long as it's good for the current fruit. If you're plowing the field, and there's trees in the field, so now if you're benefiting the current fruit, so you're doing it for the fruit of the 6th year. But once you're not benefiting those fruit, then it's clear that you're trying to do it to benefit the field for the 7th year. So then you're not allowed to from that period on. When is that? We'll leave that for a moment. Bet Hillel says they give a very concrete time. This is when you're allowed to plow until the Atzeret, until Shavuot. Okay. Ukrovim divrei elu liot kedivrei elu. Right. So then Mishnah closes off. Both times are pretty close in proximity to one another. Right. So just assuming that Bet Shammai is a little bit mahmir, so he's probably a little bit earlier than Shavuot. Okay. So Rambam points out that this Mishnah is specific to, this is Mishnah Yishona. This is the first Mishnah. Right, but meaning halacha is no longer like this Mishnah. That you're not allowed to plant during the 6th year. Right, everybody, we all know that we're not allowed to plant. You're not allowed to plant in the 6th year. Right, you're not allowed to plow on the 6th year leading into the 7th, and also you're not allowed to harvest on the 7th year. Right, even if you're trying to benefit the 8th. Right, both those are asur. And where they learn this from? So there was somechet on this din to what the pasuk says in Sefer Shemot. Sheshet yamim ta'aseh ma'asecha. The pshat of the pasuk is talking about the Shabbat itself. You work for 6 days. Ubayom hashvi'i tishbot, and you rest on the 7th day. Beharish u'bakatzir tishbot. Right, from plowing and harvesting you shall rest. Now, what do we learn from here? So again, the pshat is talking about over there is talking about Shabbat, but Chachamim are Doresh, and they say it can't be talking about Shabbat. Why? Because we're singling out Harisha and Ktsira. And we know that all melachot are asur on Shabbat, not just plowing and harvesting. Right? So the pasuk wouldn't be telling us on Shabbat you're not allowed to harvest and plow. You're not allowed to do any melachot. Now it's also not talking about the Shemitah year itself. Because we already know that specifically the pasuk says lo tizra'u v'lo tiksir. You can't plant and you can't harvest right? So it can't be talking about Shabbat, and it can't be talking about Shemitah. So what is it talking about? And this is what the Yerushalmi says: If it's not talking about Shabbat itself, and it's not talking about the Shemitah year, right? Because we have a pasuk that speaks to that specifically. Right? Then it's going to be being osir 2 other times, right? When you're not allowed to plow and you're not allowed to harvest. And when is that? When it comes to the plowing, it's the Harishul Erev Sheviit, Sheotze the Sheviit, plowing on the 6th year leading into the 7th. And the Katzir, the harvesting, is Harishul Asur Zeh Katzir Sheviit, Sheotze the Mosai Sheviit. Of the 7th year harvesting, when you're trying to benefit the 8th, right? Okay. Now, parenthetically, Rambam points out every time we say Erev Sheviit, that's the 6th year leading into the 7th. And now he says the Talmud, right, in Moed Katan, it says Rabban Gamliel uBet Dino nimnu al shnei haparakim halalu ve'etiru. Rabban Gamliel and his Betin came, and on these 2 times, right, meaning the 6th year and the 8th in the preparation of the 8th, he was matir. He allowed them both. Now, how could you allow something both if we just said it's from the Torah? So that's what Rambam deals with over here. And he says, what Rabban Gamliel did was he didn't hold, as we're explaining, Baharishu Bakatzir is talking about the 2 other times. He held like the Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael has an elsewhere drasha that we'll learn later in the Perek, right, where he uses, Baharishu Bakatzir to learn something else from it. So he held like the Rabbi Yishmael in that area. So now what? So everything that we said now, that Avodat Haaretz Erev Sheviit is not asur from the Torah, right? Rather what? It's only asur, it's halacha Moshe Sinai, that what? It's halacha bizman shebet hamikdash kayam. It's a halacha only when the Bet HaMikdash is around. So when the Bet HaMikdash is around, you're not allowed to plow up until Atzeret, according to Bet Hillel, right? And Rambam further clarifies this in the Mishna Torah, right? In the Mishna Torah, he says that you're not allowed to plow on the 6th year, 30 days, up until the Shemitah year, halachal Moshe Sinai, right? And this law applies when? So we learn, right? We know that this law, 30 days, up until you're not allowed to work the field, that is specific to when the Bet HaMikdash is around. Now, because we have this law, right, this Deoraita law, right, that you're not allowed to plow 30 days within the Shemitah year, so Chachamim came, and that's our Mishnah over here, and they will gozer that you're not allowed to plow in the field of trees from Shavuot and on, right? So, according to the Rabban Gamliel, this gezerah, right, that we're applying over here would only make sense to apply during a time when the Bet HaMikdash is around and you have this Deoraita law. But because the Bet HaMikdash is not around and we don't have to, hold ourselves back from plowing 30 days before the Shemitah year. So therefore, Rabban Gamliel came and said, okay, from us, we don't have to hold of this law up until Shavuot, right? And that's what we're talking about over here, that Rabban Gamliel's Betin, hitir avodat haaretz ad Rosh Hashanah, he allowed the plowing and the working in the field all the way up until Rosh Hashanah. That sums up our Mishnah. Just to paraphrase again, we're not allowed, when the Bet HaMikdash was around, midoraita, you're not allowed to work the field 30 days up before Rosh Hashanah. Chachamim came and extended that period up until Atzeret, up until Shavuot. That's our Mishnah over here. Rabban Gamliel and his Betin came and they wiped out that gezerah, right? And they allowed everyone to work the field all the way up until Rosh Hashanah.